Guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about all the books I read in October. I read kind of a lot of books, and it's mostly because of one series, which you will hear about. The first book that I technically finished was Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr, but I talked about that in my last video, so I don't feel like talking about it again. And then I read The Princess and the Goblin by George MacDonald. Actually, I listened to it on audiobook. It is about this princess, obviously, who lives in a kingdom where there are goblins who come out at night and all the humans are scared of them, except for some of them, come to find out. But yeah, it's basically a story about, you know what? Okay, here's my issue. I don't really read like the synopses of books before I start them most of the time, and then I don't really know what is a spoiler and what is not, you know what I mean? So there might be mild spoilers in this video, but I will try not to spoil anything big. Anyway, she lives in this kingdom. People are good, goblins are bad, and it's a story about her, and she meets some goblins and they have bad intentions, and oh my gosh, I forgot to say, she meets her like great-great-grandma in like this hidden room in her castle, and her grandma has magic basically, and the story goes from there, you know. It's not too long, so I won't say too much, but I really enjoyed it. It was a fun little book. Then I also read Thorn Hedge by T. Kingfisher on my Kindle. I didn't have like super high expectations, except that everyone I've heard talk about it really thought it was really good. And by everyone, I mean like 2 or 3 YouTubers that I watch. It's very short also, so I can't say too much without like really spoiling it, but it's about this fairy, shall we say, who is guarding a tower that is overgrown with a thorn hedge. On the cover it says, "Not all curses should be broken." So that's a little bit of a teaser for you. But it's, like I said, it's pretty short. It's pretty fun. If you like a good fairy tale, I thought it was pretty fun. The next book I read was Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I've wanted to read this book for a long time. And then one of my new favorite booktubers has a video about reading this book that kind of like really convinced me. And also some other books that I read this month talked about Jane Eyre, and I was like, I should read this so I know what she's talking about. But I have wanted to read it before then. It's about Jane Eyre, and in the beginning you get like a little bit of her life growing up, so you can see like how she grew up and what her personality is and all of that. And then she goes to be a governess for a little girl at a house owned by Mr. Rochester. And it's the story of Jane Eyre and Mr. Rochester and their feelings for each other and just kind of what happens from there, you know? You would think that I would be getting better at explaining what books are about, but I don't know that I am. And here's the thing, I went into this book knowing 2 of the major spoilers. I don't know how I knew them, I just kind of did. It's an old book. I just kind of found out. So I wasn't really sure how I was going to feel about the characters because I knew the twists already. I was very hesitant. I was like, I don't know if I can buy this. I don't know, because I already know what's gonna happen, so I'm going into it very skeptical. I still am not 100% sure how I feel about it. It's written in the form of Jane Eyre like writing a memoir or writing in her journal about her life, and so she's kind of like narrating it, and then it like you kind of forget that she's narrating it because it just goes into the story, and then like you get a reminder that she's like, oh yeah, and then da 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 da. Charlotte Bronte's writing is very atmospheric, it's very almost like poetic, it's very like luxurious. I don't know if that's the right word, but that's how I felt. And I just like the emotions that they felt were said in such intense and like beautiful ways that even if I didn't know if I fully agreed with them, I like felt them. And also when I finished it, I wanted to reread it right away again, and I would say annotate, but I don't know if I want to write in it, but I want to put my little tabs in. There's things that like stood out to me, and I was like, I want to remember this. That was like said so well. Yeah, I don't fully know how I feel about Jane Eyre and Mr. Rochester, but I really like this book. And the fact that I immediately wanted to read it again, I think is a good sign. Would recommend. I would recommend it at the end of the day. Then, what I read next. Guys, okay, listen. In my last video, I talked about how I read the first 2 books in a series called The Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon by Beth Brower. And I did read the next 5 books this month. Yeah. I did. It's true. Listen. I just like them, okay? I read most of the 3rd book last month, but I did finish it this month. And then I read number 4, number 5, number 6, and number 7 this month. What can I say? I was hooked. So basically, let me give like the premise of the first book again, because I can't really talk about what happens in the next one in much detail, you know, because it'll really just spoil it. If you don't care about spoilers, hit me up. I can tell you everything that happens because I would love to discuss these books. It's true, I would. Basically, they're written in journal format. The journal belonging to Miss Emma M. Lyon, of course. Emma has just moved back to London. She was living with her aunt for like 3 years, being her, like living with her, helping her out. Her aunt was a horrible person, and now she's moving back to the house that she's inherited from her father. And her uncle still lives there, and he's also just horrible. He like hates her. He is always saying bad things about her. All around not a great person. As the series progresses, like yes, there is some character development, but however, we still do not love him. Anyway, so it's just like a series about Emma and her escapades, and she has to find a way to like make enough money to survive, and she loves to read. I feel like all of the things I'm saying are just kind of random and put together. Why do I like this series? You know, she has just captivated me. She's funny, she's independent, she's just a girl, and I love her for it. It's a series that's like, it's like not that deep. It's kind of fun and silly and crazy times and crazy things, and you just follow. But then also like she's dealing with grief, and it made me cry more than once. Let me just qualify that by saying it's not that hard for me to cry in a book. Like she's grieving someone that she loved very much, and throughout the series it's like her working through that and opening herself up again. I'm not gonna lie, when I read the first book, like I kind of expected it to be like a romance, and it isn't really. It's like kind of sort of like hints of it really, but not, there's really no like actual romance until, this is a mild spoiler, skip ahead like 20 seconds if you don't want to hear it, until like the end of the 6th book. And then in the 7th book there's like some more. However, since these books are all on Kindle, I was like a little bit worried that it would be like really steamy and weird and gross, and I don't enjoy that type of thing. Thank God it is not. And also it's like strangely Christian, kind of, question mark. It's not like super Christian, but there is a pastor who Emma becomes friends with, and he's like a pretty prominent character, and she mentions his sermons. She goes to church. It mentions God and spiritual things more than I would have expected, and it just seems like kind of wholesome and fun, good time. And so far I'm loving it. When I started this series, I really did think that it was a 7-book series because that is how many books were available. Was I ever wrong? So the books cover like 2 months each, and as I've come to find out, the series is going to be covering like 4 years of her life. There's going to be like 24 books in this series if it continues as it is, which means that it's only like a quarter of the way through, and now I'm caught up. Like the 7th book was only released in like August of this year, and I didn't know that when I started, and it has taken a toll on me to realize that I will have to wait quite a while for the rest of this series and for the books to come out. To be fair, she does release them like fairly quickly, but like now I'm caught up. Now I have to wait for every single book. Trash. I should have waited until they were all out, and then I could binge them all at once. Whatever. I just started the 7th book, and then I read Jane Eyre, because I wanted to finish Jane Eyre this month, and I was like, I'm gonna take a break from this one, and it'll help me like spread it out a little bit more read another book. And during that time, I like looked up the author. I was just like looking into the series and into the books. I was like trying to think of all the reasons why I probably actually didn't like the series, and I was just gaslighting myself because I don't know why. And I almost did it. I was like, I can think of all the reasons why people wouldn't like these books. Probably they're like not even that good. I was just kind of like in it. And then I went back to the 7th book. I just like them. It's true. I almost convinced myself that I wouldn't like them, but I really do. It's just a good time. And if you ever get the opportunity to read them, give it a shot, you know? Maybe you'll love it. Maybe you'll hate it. I didn't. The next 2 books that I read this month were nonfiction. The first one that I finished was Now I Become Myself by Ken Shigematsu. I finished it at the beginning of the month, and now it has like a little bit left my mind. But the thing is, I remember how I felt about it, and I remember how it affected me, but I don't quite know yet how to speak about it. Truly apologize. I don't really have like too much more to say about this book, except that I thought it was good. Great review. You're welcome. The last book that I finished this month was Hope in Any Crisis by Bill Johnson, and I listened to it on audiobook. I'm like a little bit fascinated by hope as a concept, what it means, what it is, what God really means by hope, what does it look like to have a biblical hope. So that is why I read this book. It was so good. I listened to it, and now I'm gonna buy it because the narrator talked a little bit more quickly than I could really take all of it in. So I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna really take it in, take some notes, dive deep. So yeah, that is all the books that I read. That is the end. That is all I have to talk about. That is all I have to say. Let me know in the comments section if you have ever read any of these books and what you thought of them, and let me know what book you're reading right now. And if you have any suggestions, any recommendations for books that you think I would like or that you think I should read, let me know because I love to read. That's all. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!